What's up guys, welcome to Wasted Space, and if you haven't checked out the other video I posted earlier today, please check that out first, and this video is aimed at telling you a little bit about what I used in the background of that. So what I decided to do, given it's kind of that time of year, and also I was really damn happy, I thought I'd make something a bit silly in the form of a fireworks display. So this is kind of half of what was used in the video, and I'm just going to go quickly through how I put this together, how it works, and more importantly how I got around the challenge of dealing with what I believe to be 152 merge blocks and something like 76 timers. No, actually no, it's got to be more than that because there's a whole bunch of timers under here as well. So something like 90 timers, and keeping track of all the things and labeling all the things so that I could actually use it. So if let's get the UI back on again and go and find one of the many control panels that are dotted around here, I can obviously, first of all, actually I might as well explain what the rockets are. These are my fireworks. Literally very straightforward: merge block, reactor, timer block, and a couple of warheads with some thrusters on it that are set constantly with the thrust on forwards. And what I've done in these timer blocks for each one, and these were copy and pasted, and I've got in my blueprints thing a few different variants of it that I saved. So we've got sort of different timers, different styles of firework there. They're all based off this same design, and each one of those has the timer block that's on them set up in exactly the same way prior to copy and pasting, and this bit's really important. So they've all got it set up where they've got a group for the warheads that are equipped on them, and they've got their merge block in here, and they're detonating the warheads and toggling the merge block on and off. And by pre-assigning those in the groups, when I copy and pasted them on here, it meant that I could use those timers without having to go through and worry about which one was on which ship. As long as I worked out which merge block to detach, the timer would be correct, because at that point the timer has left the platform. It's only dealing with the warheads and everything that's on here. So the next challenge, once I copy and pasted all this, was to deal with the horrible mess of merge blocks. And the way I got around sort of the problem of how you sort out which merge block is which is by a very straightforward numbering system. So I went through beforehand, after I pasted everything in, I went through and I named every merge block 1 through to 76. And then I turned them all on the HUD. And by doing that, I could then go around one by one and name all the timers to match, so that all the timers and the merge blocks are named the same, so you know which craft it is. So you've got timer and merge block 55 are on a specific rocket. And I could then group those rockets. And my naming system here for the groups, I tried my best to keep it clear for me. Basically, they're in rows. So row 1 is at the back, and row 6 is the very front row. And then I've referred to things as middle, left or right, and then a little bit about their function. So if they're one of these larger variants of the firework there with the bigger explosion, then they're obviously marked down with a large. If they're pointing diagonally, I've marked those down, and I've also grouped them together in sort of functions. So these 4 here are in a cluster. So at this point you've got the whole mess kind of grouped up into bunches of fireworks, and they're all grouped so that they're actually going to work, and the timer and the merge block is all clearly identifiable. So here are all those horrible groups. And then the next step to make this all function was to go down and make a timer block for every single rocket, or every single group of rockets. So we have, turns out, 24 groups of rockets, which are what all these black timers are. And these black timers are designed to make our lives easier in the long run, because what these will do, and I'm using these purely just to combine 2 functions into one button. So here I've got, this is set to start that timer, and this is set to turn off the merge block. And of course it's the same groups, merge blocks and timers, so it does them all at once. And what this enables us to do is, when we then go into another timer, so if I go and find the timers to actually do all the work, which are S1 to S9, as in stage 1 to stage 9, I can then drag these in and just say trigger, and that will do 2 functions that you couldn't normally do on the same bar. So if I drag this down, you've got toggle block on and off, all the standard ones. But if I go and then take one of these timers down, you can see that they've got some very special functions like trigger now, start and so on, that are not generic to all blocks. And if they're in a group together, you cannot do anything other than toggle that block on and off. And that for me would be useless, because I would not then be able to start the timer. I don't want to turn the timer block off, I want it to start. So we've now built our rocket clusters. We've attached them to these, which are basically just functions. Don't think of these as timers. They're a function. So this is the function called third row in the middles, large flares, of which there are 6. And that's the trigger for them. That's the little gist of my naming scheme. Same over here. And then these became the 9 stages of, say, the fireworks display. So in each one of these, there will, I picked the 9th, that's a bad one to start with. In each one of these, 5th, there will be the fireworks that I want to go off at that point, and then it starts the timer on the next block. And all of this is set up in such a way, now it is all linked together like that, so that you can just go down and I want to make a particular stage of my fireworks display go a bit slower. So I can go to that stage and I can change the delay on it, and that will change that entire cluster of rockets. Let's say I want to actually move around my fireworks display. I can go in here and drag the blocks down for each cluster and just change which stage they're in. Vice versa, I can also then go into these and change things like the delay of activation, so that delay there is the timer block on board that group, and that's how long it takes before they're going to detonate, basically. And it gives you lots of flexibility to go through and change everything. So that's the kind of the gist of it. It's relatively simple until you get to the nitty-gritty, and I have to admit, I thought that this was going to be a really relatively quick video, something a bit fun for the 1,000 subscribers, and in reality, I've spent 6 or so hours pretty much just naming merge blocks and naming timers and trying to get them all grouped together in the right way. But the nice thing about this is now actually a blueprint. I've got a fireworks box. There's a box of fireworks is in here, and I can now paste that in as I wish, or as I did for the actual video itself, paste it in and connect it on the back. And because all the groups are named the same, it will just duplicate everything that's happened. And I'm not going to bother trying to line it up. You get the idea. So in that final video, there is actually twice as many, and they're all grouped off, and they're going in pairs, essentially. So there's the general gist of things. There are 2 sort of main concerns you need to take into account if you can do anything like this yourself. Firstly, you have to use a rotor. Not just to get the diagonals like I have, but you notice they're also there on the upright ones. What that does is stop when you basically, if you were to attach this onto that merge block and it was on top of this large block here, it would become part of the platform. It would change type into a platform, and then when it detached the merge block, it wouldn't move at all because it's a platform. It's stuck in space. That's how Space Engineers works. So that's sort of concern number 1. The other concern you want to sort of be careful with and take into account when you're doing this sort of thing is you've got to be sure that you're very, very, very stringent and careful with how you name everything, and when you're doing that setup part of things. After that, you get the opportunity to change things around really easily, change all your parameters really easily for actually what's quite a cool fireworks display. But you've got to get that first bit right. Now, what I will do, and this version won't be the one, I will upload a final version of this once I've got time to finish it off. Wanted to get the video out first onto the workshop. And what that's going to have is, alongside the predetermined timer fireworks display that I've got in there, and you're free, have a play around with that, make your own fireworks displays, could be quite cool. Be interested to see actually if anyone gives that a go and see what you think, if you come up with something quite different. But the other thing I'll put into there is a platform out here connected to that one with a button to trigger each group manually as well. So you can actually just play around by sitting here, triggering the groups of fireworks as you will, decide what order you want to do things in, decide what looks cool, and then go and program it into the timers. So there you go, guys. Something a bit different, something a bit weird this time round. I thought it was at least relatively amusing. I also thought it was going to take a lot less time than it did, but hey, that's Space Engineers. So thanks a lot for the support you're giving me. Thanks a lot for watching. Thanks a lot for subscribing, tuning in, your comments, all of that stuff. It's awesome. Please keep it coming. I promise I'm going to keep the content coming and keep trying to make the content better and more interesting for you guys, as well as trying to, as I said in my last video, branch out a bit into other games, so you'll get a bit more space-related content from other places too. So thanks a lot for watching, guys. If you liked the video, please hit the like, please hit the subscribe as always, and I will catch you next time.